Beautiful soul, you may feel something shifting inside you right now, yet you cannot explain it. The intensity that once tore you open has suddenly gone quiet, almost suspiciously quiet. The chasing, the longing, the aching nights that held your heart hostage for so long feel muted, as if they are dissolving into thin air. A part of you wonders if you've grown numb, if you've lost hope, or if your connection has somehow slipped away without warning. But what you are truly facing is far deeper. You are standing at the threshold between who you were in the fire and who you are becoming beyond it. You sense the cycle ending, yet your mind cannot comprehend how it closed without your permission, without your awareness. You feel the stillness, but you don't yet understand what this stillness means. This is the confusion so many divine feminines face at the end of a karmic storm, the moment when everything stops, yet nothing has been revealed. You are not lost. You are not failing. You are crossing into a destiny your spirit has been preparing for all along. And yet, you don't know how to interpret this new silence. In today's transmission, we will help you decode this mysterious shift with absolute clarity. You will understand why the exhaustion has lifted, why the longing is dissolving, and why the universe has suddenly wrapped you in a strange, electric calm. We will walk you through the deeper meaning behind this quiet moment, before the 14/12 alignment, the moment when the universe seals the end of the storm and reveals the beginning of your new timeline. You will discover why your guides stepped back, why the emotional pressure evaporated, why the old wounds no longer have the power to reopen. This video will help you recognize the truth you've been sensing. The trial has ended, the chapter is closed, and a new destiny is already unfolding beneath your feet. By the time you reach the end of this video, you will no longer mistake peace for emptiness or the silence of the universe for abandonment. You will understand that this moment, this still, profound, unsettling moment, is the doorway into your next level of ascension. You will walk away knowing that the fire purified you, not punished you, and that you now stand in the ashes of a cycle that can never touch you again. This video will shift your perspective from confusion to clarity, from fear to sovereignty, from longing to inner union. You will finally see yourself, not as someone waiting to be rescued, but as someone who has already transformed. And when you realize that the universe has declared your trial complete, you will step into the 14/12 portal with confidence, strength, and a heart that is ready for the destiny calling your name. Section 1. The end of the trial by fire. There is a heaviness in the air today, a quiet that does not feel empty but charged, as if wrapped in a thin veil of electricity. It is the kind of stillness that only arrives after something ancient and fierce has completed its work. The fire you walked through, the very fire that once drained your energy, dimmed your hope, and shook the foundations of your soul, has finally burned itself out. Its smoke has cleared, its weight has dissolved. You are no longer inside the storm, but standing in its shimmering aftermath, in the space where miracles begin taking shape, long before they reach your physical world. And whether you realize it or not, something is already moving toward you with a speed, precision, and inevitability that only the divine can orchestrate. Every divine feminine reaches a moment in her journey when the storm simply stops seeking her. It does not happen because she begged for relief or because fate suddenly softened. It happens because she transformed into someone the storm could no longer touch, someone who no longer vibrates at the level of chaos, fear, or wounded attachment. As we move into the week leading up to the 12/12 alignment, one of the most powerful energetic gateways of the year, you are stepping into that exact turning point. This is the energetic threshold where the narrative shifts not through force, but through evolution. You have moved through emotional terrain that would have broken most people. You have endured energetic attacks, spiritual exhaustion, and grief so deep it reached the level of the soul. You have been confronted with mirrors from your divine masculine, from karmic forces, from the universe itself, mirrors that exposed wounds you didn't want to see but needed to heal. You fought invisible battles no one around you could understand, and still, you rose each time. All of this, every ounce of it, was part of your sacred contract, the divine initiation required for your rise into sovereignty. But here is the revelation the universe kept hidden until now. The forces that once shattered you now collapse when they approach you. The energies that once tangled themselves around your heart now dissolve at the edges of your aura. You did not escape the chaos. You outgrew its frequency. You no longer match the vibration of the loops, the waiting, the anxious attachment, or the spiritual interference that once pursued you relentlessly. These old timelines cannot find you anymore because you are no longer standing in the version of yourself they were created to bind. Do not mistake this shift for delusion or denial. This is ascension. This is graduation. This is the moment you surpass the curriculum of separation and step into the sovereignty that was always meant to be yours. Section 2. The calm that signals completion. If today feels unusually still, if there is a quietness wrapping itself around your inner world like a soft blanket, do not mistake that silence for emptiness. This is not the void. This is not numbness. This is divine peace, returning to its rightful throne within your heart space, after far too long of being pushed aside by fear, grief, and spiritual turbulence. The physical world around you may appear unchanged at a glance, yet energetically, something monumental has shifted. You are no longer standing in the same chapter of your life. You have stepped into an entirely new room of your spiritual journey. Whether your mind has caught up with that truth or not, you cleared the karmic smoke that once clouded your intuition. You walked through the emotional fire that threatened to break you apart. And because of that, the doorway to the 14/12 portal now opens before you with full recognition of your readiness. It is a new chamber, a space made of love, inner sovereignty, creation, and rapid manifestation, and it is calling your name with a clarity you can feel in your bones. Think back to the nights when your tears soaked your pillow so deeply, they seemed to leave a map of your heartbreak behind. Remember the ache in your chest that you could never quite explain, the heaviness that sat beneath your ribs, the confusion that swallowed your breath, the moments when perceived betrayal felt unbearable, and the silence from your divine masculine echoed louder than any words. There were days you feared the suffering would never end. You thought this pain was becoming your identity, your destiny, your entire story. But there is a moment in the divine feminine's evolution that few people ever talk about, the moment she stops crying. Not because she has hardened, not because she has shut down, but because the wound has finally completed its cycle. The pain that once lived inside her body simply lets go. It releases its final grip, quietly, gracefully, and without asking for permission. One morning, without warning, she wakes up and notices that the memories no longer sting. The longing dissolves like mist under sunlight. The triggers that once sent her spiraling feel distant, almost irrelevant, as if they belong to someone she no longer is. Emotional sovereignty returns not with fireworks but with a soft, powerful certainty that she can feel in her chest and in her breath. This is the energy preparing you now. This is the calm that signals completion. The internal cycle has closed. The karmic chapter has ended. And as the 1212 alignment approaches, the external world will soon mirror this inner completion back to you in ways that will leave no doubt that you have crossed a threshold you cannot uncross. You are ready, and the universe knows it. Before we move forward, take a moment to sit with this calm that has risen within you. Reflect on how far you've come, on the nights you thought you wouldn't make it, and on the quiet strength that now fills your heart. If this message resonates with your journey, I invite you to share your thoughts in the comments or tell us how this shift is unfolding for you. And if you simply want to affirm your readiness for the next chapter, type, "I am stepping into my new timeline" below to anchor this energy. Section 3. The sacred stillness after the storm. There comes a moment in every divine feminine's journey when the storm that once consumed her simply ends. Not with fanfare, not with a dramatic change in the sky, not with the blazing sunlight she always imagined would announce her victory. It just stops, and in that sudden quiet, she stands face to face with something she has not felt in a long time: peace. Yet strangely, that peace can feel far more unsettling than the chaos she fought through. After spending so many seasons battling shadows, healing wounds, running from pain, and rising from ashes, the silence begins to feel suspicious, as though something must be wrong if everything is finally still. Many divine feminines become spiritually conditioned to believe that suffering is synonymous with growth. You pushed yourself through every layer of healing, peeled back every wound, questioned every belief, and purified every fragment of your soul. Eventually, you begin to equate pain with progress, as if constant inner work is the only proof that you are evolving. But there comes a sacred turning point when everything that once demanded healing has already been transmuted. There is nothing left to fix, nothing left to chase, nothing left to sacrifice. The emptiness you feel in that moment is not danger, it is wholeness. It is the universe rewriting your nervous system after years of survival mode, teaching your body what it feels like to exist without the anticipation of heartbreak or disappointment. This stillness is the awkward quiet after spiritual rebirth, the tender pause where your energy recalibrates to a new frequency. It is the place where your soul learns to trust life again, where your heart learns to rest without bracing for impact. The universe is not withholding blessings from you. It is showing you the very life you once begged for during your darkest nights. Peace, in its truest form, is not the absence of motion, but the presence of alignment. It is the moment when you are no longer pushed by pain or pulled by longing, you are simply guided by truth. As the 1412 portal opens, you are ushered into a frequency where survival is no longer mistaken for purpose, and suffering is no longer confused with love. This is the initiation into your next chapter, a chapter defined not by chaos, but by clarity, self-trust, and divine alignment. Section 4. The release of ancestral weight. From the moment your soul anchored into this lifetime, you carried far more than your own story. The divine feminine rarely incarnates alone. She arrives with the echoes of those who came before her, ancestors who swallowed their emotions to survive, families who learned to silence their truth because speaking it brought danger, and entire lineages that normalized suffering in love simply because they had no example of anything different. Their wounds became whispers in your bloodstream, their fears became patterns in your nervous system, their pain became the emotional landscape you were born into. This is why on your journey, every tear you shed felt heavier than one lifetime could justify. The nights you lay awake with a grief that had no clear origin, the emotional collapses that seemed too overwhelming for a single heart, the ache that felt ancient, none of it was imagined. You were carrying emotional signatures written across generations. When you healed, you were not healing in isolation. You were cleansing centuries of unresolved energy, unwinding knots formed long before you took your first breath. Each time you forgave your divine masculine, you were not just softening your heart, you were ending a lineage of women who held on to bitterness because they never felt safe enough to let it go. Each time you chose self-love, instead of chasing validation, you broke a pattern embedded deeper than conscious memory. A pattern your mother, grandmother, and great-grandmothers never had the chance to rewrite. With every conscious choice, you became the punctuation mark at the end of your bloodline's karmic sentence. The full stop, where suffering finally ends. This is why your path felt heavier than the paths of those around you. It was never a punishment, it was divine selection. The weight came to you because your soul carried the strength, the spiritual muscle, and the energetic intelligence required to hold what others could not. You were chosen not for your fragility but for your resilience. Not because you were meant to break, but because you were meant to release what no one before you had the capacity to confront. Now, as the week leading into December 14th unfolds, a cosmic shift begins. This is the moment when the ancestral inheritance you have carried for lifetimes finally dissolves. The heaviness behind your heart loosens not slowly but decisively, as if an invisible cord snaps and releases you into a new internal freedom. The air around you feels different, cleaner, quieter, more spacious because it is no longer crowded by the grief of those who walked before you. For the first time in many lifetimes, your lineage exhales through you. And at last, that ancient pain is at peace. Imagine a woman who grows up watching every female in her family shrink themselves in relationships. Her grandmother stayed quiet to keep the peace. Her mother apologized even when she wasn't wrong. Her aunts carried heartbreak like an expected inheritance, convincing themselves that suffering was simply the price of love. This woman never learned these patterns through words, she learned them through energy, through the emotional atmosphere she breathed in since childhood. And when she entered her own twin flame connection, she found herself repeating those same inherited wounds, over-giving, over-apologizing, choosing silence over truth, fearing abandonment so deeply it felt older than her own lifetime. Yet the moment she chooses to do something, her lineage never dared. The moment she says no when her soul means no, the moment she chooses integrity over approval, the moment she walks away from emotional crumbs and demands real love, she doesn't just change her life. She changes the story written inside her bloodline. She becomes the first woman in generations to break the cycle. And in that single act of courage, entire ancestral lines sigh with relief, finally freed through her willingness to choose what they could not. Section 5. Mastery of the shadow and the rise into sovereignty. There comes a point on every divine feminine's journey when she finally turns around and sees the truth of what she has survived, not the external chaos, not the wounds others inflicted carelessly, but the shadow forged from the inside, the storm born of betrayal, abandonment, misunderstanding, and the overwhelming intensity of a connection that demanded her evolution long before she ever felt ready. This is a shadow every divine feminine knows intimately, not as an enemy, but as a relentless teacher. For so long, this shadow taught you to protect your heart, even as it throbbed in longing for the masculine. It made you question your worth, doubt your path, and wonder whether you were meant to carry so much emotional weight alone. Yet beneath the confusion, something extraordinary was unfolding. Every wound, every disappointment, every unanswered prayer was quietly shaping spiritual armor around your soul. The universe was training you, strengthening you, fortifying you, even when you believed you were merely breaking. What once felt like bitterness slowly transformed into clarity. What appeared as betrayal alchemized into discernment. What shattered you through heartbreak sharpened the edge of your self-worth. Each time this journey pushed you to your knees, it was secretly setting the foundation for you to rise with a new kind of power. Every scar became a sacred signature declaring, "I survived, and I remembered who I am." You were not losing yourself. You were returning to yourself piece by piece, truth by truth, breath by breath. A true divine feminine does not erase her pain nor pretend it never existed. She transmutes it. She recycles the heaviness into wisdom. She turns doubt into unwavering devotion, fear into luminous insight, and shadow into sovereignty. Through this alchemy, you learned one of the rarest spiritual skills: to love without losing yourself, to walk away without resentment, to choose peace without demanding apology, and to stand in your truth without collapsing into old patterns. You are no longer the version of yourself your divine masculine once ran from. That former self, fragile and unguarded, served an important purpose. She carried you through the fire, and then she stepped aside so a stronger version could emerge. The woman you are now, sharper, wiser, anchored, and aligned, is the embodiment of everything this journey required you to become. Pain was never a punishment for you. It was the curriculum. It was the initiation. It was the training that prepared you to hold the frequency you're stepping into now. Every spiritual test has been passed. Every lesson has been integrated, and the universe is now declaring your mastery. If this resonates with your soul, type mastery in the comments to anchor this frequency fully into your field. Section 6. The sacred fog before the breakthrough. If you feel disconnected, suspended, or drifting between worlds right now, do not panic. This sensation is not a collapse. It is not regression. It is not you losing your way. The fog you are walking through is not a sign of failure. It is a sign of crossing. It is the unmistakable signal that a massive energetic shift is already in motion. Your soul has stepped into the new timeline first, taking the lead the way it always does. Your mind and body are simply lagging behind, recalibrating, adjusting, learning how to operate at a completely different frequency. What feels like confusion is actually evidence of completion. The old separation energy has already detached from your field. The new union frequency has not yet fully anchored. And so you stand here, not in chaos, but in the in-between, the holy threshold, where everything is rearranging itself on your behalf. This is the sacred liminal space where nothing makes sense because everything is being rewritten. It feels like nothing and everything at once, like the air after a bolt of lightning, charged, silent, and humming with invisible possibility. It is the still point between death and rebirth, where you are no longer the feminine who suffered, but not yet fully the feminine who manifests. This fog is not meant to frighten you. It is the universe cushioning your transition so you do not burn out from the intensity of what is approaching. It is the gentle pause before the breakthrough, the quiet breath before momentum returns, the protected cocoon where your energy stabilizes before the next elevation. You are not stuck, you are being held. In this space, The universe asks you one profound question. Will you trust the unseen proof of your transformation? Will you trust the shift you can feel but cannot yet describe? Will you trust the timeline your soul has already chosen, even when your mind cannot map its shape? If your thoughts feel slow, blurry, or unmotivated, allow it. Integration is not something the mind can force. Your system is rewiring itself on a quantum level, and this recalibration must unfold on its own timeline. When the fog dissolves, clarity will rise with the precision and softness of dawn after the longest night, revealing just how far you have already come. The 1212 alignment is the moment this clarity descends from the energetic realm into the physical world. It is the point where the unseen becomes undeniable, and the shift you sensed becomes the reality you live. Section 7. The numerology and power of the 1412 portal. At first glance, December 14th may appear just like any other day on the calendar, but hidden within this sequence of numbers is a sacred mathematical code, a profound numerical architecture, signaling the completion of one chapter and the opening of a higher one. The vibration of 1412 is not random. It is a cosmic formula for manifestation, harmony, fulfillment, and union. The number 1 represents the spark of new beginnings, the rise of masculine energy, leadership, and the initiation of movement. The number 2 represents cooperation, balance, intuition, alignment, and the nurturing essence of the divine feminine. Together, these numbers form 12, a cycle of rebirth, evolution, spiritual understanding, and completion. But when 12 expands into 1412, the frequency transforms into a multidimensional activation, a sequence that awakens something deep within your energetic field. Adding the digits together, 1 plus 4 plus 1 plus 2 equals 8, and the number 8 carries the vibration of prosperity, balance between the material and the spiritual, infinity, and the cyclical flow of karmic energy. From there, the energy of 8 resonates with manifestation, realization, inner strength, and the ability to bring your soul's intentions into physical form. This is why 1412 is not merely a symbolic date. It is a numerological blueprint for union. Not an imagined union born from longing, not an emotional hope driven by desire, but a physical, energetic, and spiritual reconciliation aligned with the highest possible timeline, a merging of paths that matches your soul contract rather than human expectation. The 1412 portal does not bring closure, because closure has already happened within you. Instead, it confirms the completion your spirit has quietly integrated, reflecting the stabilization of a new cycle now forming in your reality. This is why your thoughts feel unusually still, why your emotions feel balanced instead of chaotic, why your body feels lighter, calmer, and more harmonious. You are not becoming someone new. You are finally becoming whole. The inner transformation is complete. The outer world is simply preparing to mirror it back to you. If this resonates with what you've been feeling, write "miracle" in the comments to activate this timeline and anchor the 1412 frequency into your energetic field. And if you've read this far, beautiful soul, it means this message is speaking to you beyond the level of the mind. It is speaking directly to your spirit. Take a moment to breathe and reflect on everything you have endured on this journey. Which part of today's message mirrors your own experience? What signs, shifts, or revelations have unfolded within you as the 1412 portal draws near? I invite you to share your story in the comments, because your voice may be the confirmation someone else needs. And if you prefer a simple affirmation, type "I choose harmony" to anchor your transformation into the physical realm. Your presence and your engagement are part of this activation. Section 8. Dissolving pain as identity. There comes a moment on the divine feminine's path when she realizes that the pain she carried for so long was never meant to become her name. Yet somewhere in the long stretch of separation, somewhere between the heartbreaks and the silent nights, you began to mistake suffering for identity. You wore it like armor because it felt protective. You carried it like a badge because it felt validating. You let it become the proof that the connection was real and that your devotion had meaning. Slowly, almost unknowingly, Pain became the lens through which you viewed your masculine, your destiny, and even your own worth. But pain was never meant to define you. It was not your story. It was not your destiny. Pain was a messenger, a temporary guide, a sacred language the universe used when you drifted too far from your own center. It was the echo calling you home, not the home itself. Every heartbreak you endured, every disappointment that brought you to your knees, every moment when your heart felt too heavy to hold, each one served a divine purpose. These were not punishments, they were initiations. Pain carved depth into your compassion so that you could love with a wisdom few possess. It sculpted clarity into your intuition so you could see truth beneath illusion. It etched resilience into your spirit so you could rise with a strength that could withstand any storm. Pain was the teacher, not the truth. You learned patience not because life was easy, but because divine timing required you to soften into surrender. You learned empathy not through comfort, but through the ache of breaking open. You learned worth not through praise, but through the moments when love seemed absent and you had to claim yourself. Now that the lessons have been integrated, the suffering no longer has a reason to remain. You are completing a cycle you once believed you would never escape. Growth no longer demands bleeding. Healing no longer demands collapse. Evolution no longer demands endurance of constant pain. You have passed through the fire, and the fire has nothing left to burn. Consider how many versions of you have already died, so that this one could finally breathe freely. Those earlier selves carried your wounds for as long as they needed to. They protected you until you learned to protect yourself. And now, they have dissolved, and with them, their sorrow dissolves too. You are no longer the feminine who cries to be seen. You are the feminine who knows she already is. If fragments of your past echo through your heart, understand this. They are memories, not warnings. They are echoes, not omens. You have crossed a spiritual border where pain no longer holds authority over your becoming. What lies ahead is not a story about what shattered you. It is a story about what refused to break, what persisted, what transformed, and the extraordinary power now rising through your reborn feminine essence. Section 9. Divine Justice and the Masculine's Karmic Return. There is a strange heaviness moving through the collective right now, a dense quiet that feels both unfamiliar and inevitable. It is not anxiety, it is not anticipation, it is the vibration of karmic justice settling into place. The universe is rearranging the energetic architecture around you, and for the first time in a long time, that rearrangement is happening externally rather than within your own body and heart. For years, perhaps lifetimes, you carried burdens that never belonged to you. You absorbed the disappointments created by someone else's avoidance. You held space for emotions they were too afraid to feel. You carried layers of guilt that were never yours, confusion that was never born from your soul, and heartbreak created by someone who was running from themselves far more than they were ever running from you. You became the container for all the things the divine masculine refused to confront. You paid karmic debts you did not owe. You bore emotional interest on spiritual contracts that were never written in your name. But the universe misses nothing. Energy forgets nothing. Balance corrects everything. Nothing escapes the law of return. Nothing evaporates simply because someone refuses to deal with it. Every choice, every avoidance, every distortion eventually circles back to its origin. And this week marks the beginning of that return. The karmic wheel has turned, and its momentum is unmistakable. For the divine masculine, consciously or unconsciously, this is the beginning of a profound reckoning. Not punishment, not cruelty, but truth, pure, unfiltered, unavoidable truth. Every wound he projected outward must now be acknowledged inward. Every illusion he created to escape himself is dissolving in his hands. Every emotional debt he left unpaid is being brought forward, demanding release through the only route possible, inner responsibility. This is not punishment. This is purification. This is alignment. When you stopped being their lesson, they began living their own. Your cycle is complete. The universe has removed your name from the list of those in spiritual trial. The burdens that once clung to your energy can no longer access you, because your field has risen above the frequency where those patterns operate. The reverse currents are flowing, and they are flowing back to their source. This is why you feel lighter. This is why you feel detached. This is why your intuition is so still. You do not need to witness his karmic return. You do not need to intervene. You do not even need to care. Divine justice does not require your attention. It only requires truth, and truth is already unfolding. What once drained you is now draining them. What once wounded you is now awakening them. What once destabilized you is now guiding them back to their soul. The scales have finally balanced. Your energy is free. Your timeline is rising. Your spiritual record is clean. You stand beyond the reach of what once consumed you, watching the universe restore order with perfect precision. Section 10. The final temptation before rebirth. Every great transformation ends with a test, not from the universe, but from the human mind that clings to familiarity, even when freedom is finally within reach. After liberation, after the karmic dust has settled, after your heart has been returned to itself, there is always one last temptation, the urge to turn back, the desire to slip into old patterns, not because they ever served you, but because they were known. Familiarity masquerades as comfort, even when it was the source of your deepest wounds. Pain starts to feel nostalgic. Chaos feels strangely comforting. The wound begins to look like home. This is the quiet trap that catches many divine feminines at the doorway of rebirth. When life becomes calm after years of emotional turbulence, the nervous system doesn't recognize the stillness. Silence feels suspicious, as though something is missing. Peace feels hollow, as if it cannot be trusted. The ego, panicking at the absence of old patterns, begins to whisper, "Check his social media. Maybe you should reach out. Maybe you misread the signs. Maybe this calm is a trick." But nothing is being hidden from you. Nothing is slipping away from you. Nothing is collapsing behind the scenes. This is not a trick. This is the reward. This is the freedom you prayed for. You are not meant to return to what hurt you just because your body hasn't yet learned how to relax into peace. You are not meant to restart storms just to feel intensity again. You are not meant to revisit old versions of yourself who lived in survival mode. You do not need to test your healing by reopening wounds. You do not need to prove your strength by enduring old pain. You do not need to relive a chapter the universe has already ended. Every time you feel the pull to go back, pause and remember the miles of inner transformation you have walked. Remember the nights when you begged for relief. Remember how long it took for your heart to finally breathe. Remember the price you paid for clarity, for sovereignty, for the stillness you now hold in your hands. Nostalgia is not love. It is memory dressed in emotion, a ghost wearing the face of something you outgrew. Let the past remain where it belongs. Honor it for what it taught you. Bless it for what it awakened in you. Release it with the grace of someone who has finally returned to themselves. You earned this peace. You earned this freedom. You earned the miracle that is aligning with you even now. December 14th is not delivering your blessing. It is revealing the blessing you have already become. It is showing you that you no longer need to chase destiny. You are the destiny. As the energy of December 14th draws near, the universe is quietly preparing to seal the chapter that once brought you to your knees. There is no thunder, no celestial display announcing this shift. Instead, there is a profound, unmistakable inner knowing, the kind that settles into your spirit with gentle certainty, revealing that the long season of suffering that shaped you has completed its purpose. Pain was never meant to imprison you. It was meant to awaken you, sharpen you, and carve you into the version of yourself that could finally rise. Now, that pain steps aside, honoring the role it played as your catalyst, while your true path emerges in full clarity before you. You no longer identify with longing, heartbreak, or separation. You are no longer the woman who bent under the weight of wounds she did not create. You are the divine feminine who walked through fire and did not burn, who navigated storms without losing her center, who held on to her essence even when chaos tried to strip it away. Every shadow that once threatened to break you has become part of your luminous armor, a radiant proof of your sovereignty and resilience. This peace you feel now, the quiet, the stillness, is not emptiness. It is confirmation. It is the sound of karmic doors closing behind you with finality. It is the energetic alignment that tells you your inner union has anchored, your miracle timeline has begun, and your path forward is no longer clouded by confusion or delay. You stand at the entrance of a new dimension of love, purpose, and truth. A dimension where you no longer chase, where you no longer shrink, where you no longer negotiate your worth for proximity or validation. You have become the highest expression of yourself, the woman your ancestors prayed for, the woman your past selves fought to protect, the woman your divine masculine will recognize instantly, not with his mind, but with his soul. Who you are now could only have been created through the journey you endured. And because of that, what awaits you is elevated, aligned, and divinely protected. The road ahead is not a recycled version of your past. The universe has no interest in repeating lessons you have already mastered. The storm no longer has permission to enter your field. The pain that once shaped you no longer holds authority. The karmic cycles that kept you looping for years cannot cross into the timeline you just stepped into. You have already crossed the energetic border, even if your mind is still catching up to the truth. This is the cycle where you build rather than break, where you receive rather than resist, where you align rather than chase. The 1412 portal is not merely a date, it is a revelation. It is the mirror reflecting who you have become, and who you have become is the miracle itself. So breathe deeply, divine feminine. Step into this timeline with the quiet confidence of someone who has survived every version of herself and is now ready to embody the one she was always meant to be. Trust the silence, trust the clarity, trust the new frequency rising through your body like a soft awakening. The universe is not preparing you for more trials, it is preparing you for your arrival. Your manifestation is no longer theory, it is in motion. Your union is no longer uncertain, it is aligning. Your destiny is no longer obstructed, it is unfolding in real time. If this message has touched something deep within your soul, anchor your transformation right now by writing, "I step into my new timeline," in the comments. Let this be your declaration to the universe that you are no longer waiting, you are choosing. Thank you, my beautiful community, for walking this journey of remembrance, release, and rebirth. You are living proof that nothing taken from you is ever a true loss when what returns is alignment, sovereignty, and love in its purest form. The chapter that once nearly destroyed you has ended. Now begins the chapter that reveals who you truly are. If this conclusion resonated with you, please like this video, share it with someone who needs this message today, and stay with us by watching the next video below the screen. Your journey is just beginning, and what's coming next is nothing short of miraculous.